All right, thank you for joining us. Kingsley, just before we take on the business news, because actually one of the reasons why I'm bringing up the issue of Scotland's referendum is because one of the issues in business news this morning is that the European Union is looking for billions of euros, to rebuild its battered economy. And there have been talks about the effects, economic effect of Scotland moving away, from the United Kingdom on the euros and overall economy of Europe.
Well, until Thursday, because the voting takes place Thursday this week, which is on the 18th. It is either a yes or a no, and it's a very important vote that, as it were, threatens the United Kingdom, that's been together for well over 300 years, almost 307 years. But I think that perhaps, yes, the issue you have raised is important on the impact of maybe say yes vote in Scotland on the euro and the economy of Europe in general. But perhaps what I would like to invite our attention to is has to do with the game plan, the tactics being used. You have all kinds of blackmail, all kinds of blackmail issues are coming up. For instance, the Royal Bank of Scotland is threatening to relocate its headquarters from Scotland to London. And then major supermarkets have been threatening increase in prices if the Scottish were to vote yes. They get their breakaway, as it were, from the United Kingdom. Asda is said so, Marks and Spencer, and all kinds of tactics. And those who are for the yes vote are complaining. Of course, there's also a huge campaign, for the no vote. Thursday will be, a very crucial.
Whether it's a blackmail or not, whatever happens, there definitely will be great economic effect, not just on Europe, but on the economy of the European Union in general.
That's true.
There will be impact. There will be implications.
Yes.
All right, let's move on now with other stories that are coming up on the business news. The federal government is urging closer ECOWAS and European ties on West African Monetary Union. It's also seeking Europe's cooperation on Nigeria's stand on EPA. Now, EPA is European Partnership Agreement. Also, the capital market is resuming this week in the red after it recorded week of losses. And of course, we've told you that the European Union is seeking billions of euros to rebuild its battered economy. Leah Katun Babatunde will give us all the details.
Hello and welcome to Good Morning Nigeria, and we kick off from Berlin, where the federal government has called for closer cooperation between ECOWAS and the European Union on the proposed West African Common Currency, stressing that the sub-region has a lot to gain from the experience of Europe in achieving convergence in the euro. The Minister of State for Finance, Bashir Yugudahu, stated this other weekend in Berlin at a forum tagged Dialogue on German Development Cooperation with Africa. Also called for Germany's support as Nigeria seeks favorable terms on the proposed economic partnership agreement to ensure that local manufacturing is not adversely affected. On the future of Africa's cooperation with Germany, Yuguda noted that emphasis should be placed on improving regional integration and offering strategic growth support to Africa's emerging economies. He said West Africa is in the process of establishing West African Monetary Zone WAMS, and ECOWAS nations have been discussing with AU and other African regional blocs. Speaking on the theme Africa, Continent of Opportunities, a Partnership for Change, Yuguda further urged Germany and other European nations to place investment and strategic business partnership with Africa over aid, stating that only such beneficial collaboration will lead to more sustainable development of the African continent. He said there is no doubt that Africa is gradually emerging from its unenviable image of a donor-dependent continent to one that is seizing the momentum and rewriting its story. 7 African countries account for the top 20 fastest growing economies globally, presenting new opportunities on the continent, with Nigeria leading as the 26th largest economy in the world. And now to stock matters, the Nigerian Stock Exchange All-Share Index and market capitalization depreciated by 1.18% in the immediate past week to close on Friday, the 12th of September 2014 at 40,672.94 points and 13.43 trillion naira. However, 3 indices appreciated during the week while others recorded losses. The NSE 30 index shed 0.73%, NSE Consumer Goods 0.49%, Lotus Islamic Index 1.75%, 1.5%, and the NSE Industrial Goods Index 1.61%. Meanwhile, the NSE ASM Index closed flat. A turnover of 3.049 billion, shares worth 1.06.701 billion naira in 23,679 deals were traded during the week by investors on the floor of the exchange, in contrast to a total of 3.28 billion shares valued at 52.808 billion naira that exchanged hands in the preceding week in 25,592 deals. The industrial goods industry led the activity chart with 1.574 billion shares valued at 90.684 billion naira traded in 1,095 deals, thus contributing 51.68% and 84.99% to the total equity turnover volume and value. The financial services industry followed with a turnover of 990.168 million shares worth 9.233 billion naira in 11,401 deals. The third place was occupied by the conglomerates industry with 150.021 million shares worth 2.342 billion naira in 2,175 deals. Trading in the top three equities, namely Shaka Cement PLC, UBA Capital PLC, and Dangote Cement PLC, accounted for 1.812 billion shares worth 90.381 billion naira in 951 deals, contributing 59.48% and 84.70% to the total equity turnover volume and value. Also traded during the week were a total of 187,672 units of exchange traded products ETPs valued at 4.502 million naira executed in 21 deals. Similarly, there were a total of 100 units of federal government bonds valued at 123,154 naira 11 kobo executed in one deal. 38 equities appreciated in prices during the week, 45 equities depreciated in prices, while 117 equities remained unchanged. And lastly, the European Union sought ways at the weekend to marshal billions of euros into its sluggish economy without getting deeper into debt, casting the net wide to consider options from a pan-European capital market to a huge investment fund. Financial ministers from the bloc's 28 countries gathered at an informal ECOFIN meeting in Milan to flesh out a host of ideas circulating in European capitals. With interest rates already at record lows, ministers need radical steps to help growth at a time of near record unemployment. At their meeting, ministers had 4 ideas in front of them: an Italian paper on new financing tools for companies, a Franco-German proposal on how to boost private investment, a Polish proposal on creating a joint EU fund, and incoming president of the European Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker, called for a 300 billion euro investment program to revive the European economy. Poland wants a European fund for investments that will be able to finance, through leveraging its own capital, 700 billion euros worth of investment. The fund could be a special purpose vehicle under the umbrella of the European Investment Bank, the EU bank owned by the European governments. Italy's proposal is a pan-European market where smaller companies can raise capital, building on its mini-bonds legislation in 2012 that allows unlisted companies to issue. The EU's economy, which generates about a quarter of global output, grew by just 0.1% last year, and its jobless rate is almost double that of the United States, with around 25 million people unemployed. And that is it from this, and Good Morning Nigeria will continue in a moment. My name is Leah Katum Babatunde.
Thank you, dear Leah, for the business news package. Up next for us is a newspaper review. Mr. Bayo Atoyebe joins us now for the newspaper review. Bayo, welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay. We begin our review this morning with The Guardian. And the lead story on the front page of The Guardian is about the insurgency. Military jet used in attack on Boko Haram missing. That's the lead story, and there's some 3 riders there as well to that particular story. And also on the front page of The Guardian, There's a story that says suspected Fulani herdsmen killed 20 in Taraba. It's promoted on the front page. Details to be found on page 5. And then also for details to be found on page 83 is a story that says how church rights put members at risk of Ebola infection. And also on the front page, news notes, just to the left of the lead story there. News notes, nurses, midwives, Chev planned strike. And then Anglican Synod tackles divorce and societal decadence and others. That is details to be found on page 8. And Nigeria targets $800 billion trade volume with Asia by 2016. That's from The Guardian. And very quickly also we take Vanguard. The front page of Vanguard also has a story on just below the name flag of the Vanguard. Boko Haram, that's the kicker. No place for the feeble-minded in the armed forces. That's according to President Goodluck Jonathan. Details to be found on page 8. But the lead story of the paper has to do with the synagogue building collapse. That's the kicker. Death toll rises to 44 with 139 rescued. And there are 4 riders to that lead story. Fashola visits others non-rescue workers to vacate the scene of the disaster. Another rider says 80% of the survivors are women. That's according to NEMA. And building approval, Lagos government to decide today. And the last rider to that lead story says TB Joshua shows footage of incident, says target. And just below, there are 3 photographs there on the front page of the Vanguard. Below that lead story, the photographs are not related to the lead story. The photographs have to do with internally displaced persons. These are from Madagali, Michika, and Mubi local government areas. They're said to be struggling for food at a camp where they are being camped in Adamawa State. And then that's the photograph, of course, sourced from News Agency of Nigeria. Also on the front page of Vanguard is a story promoted on the front page, of course, Ebola impacts economy. And Adekunle, that's Black Scorpion, Fashola, Amosun, Mimiko, others pay tribute. And 20 feared dead in Taraba ethnic clash. That's page 9. And 4 die, 1 missing in Lagos, both mishap. Those are the stories we are taking in the meantime from the front page of Vanguard. But very quickly to one of the stories inside, page 8, for instance, page 8 of Vanguard. Suntai shuns deputy at Abuja airport. And a writer says, moves to reclaim office from Umar. Suntai, of course, is the governor of Taraba State. He's been indisposed for several months, page 8. And then also on page 9 of Vanguard, reps resume tomorrow. Debate Jonathan's $1 billion loan request, Ebola and others. And then has a rider, Education Committee to meet NMA, NUT, and parents over Ebola virus disease today. And lastly, Claire, just on page 10, it's a business story. AMCON records 630 billion naira loss in operations. That's the story on page 10. It says this represents an improvement of 10.3% from the loss of 702.4 billion naira recorded in 2012. Claire?
All right, Kingsley, we have quite a number of papers this morning, so I'd just like to crave indulgence for us to restrict our newspaper review just to the front pages to enable Mr. Toyib to have ample time to review. So I'll just quickly look at the front pages of the newspapers. I'll start with the Leadership. It's leading with a story that's common to 1 or 2 other papers here. Leadership leads with missing jet, military alerts Cameroon, Chad, Niger, others. Details on page 5. And Air Force denies sighting of aircraft in Gombe. It's also there. Just trending there, picture story of president of Dangote Group with Bill Gates addressing officials of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. That's during one of his visits there. Okay, just there, federal government, Nigerian ambassadors target $80 billion trade with Asia. And also trending at the foot, AMCON posts 625 billion naira loss, begins divestment, page 18. And Sultan, 18th most influential Muslim leader in the world, it's on page 6. Also on the front page of Daily Trust. Daily Trust, the lead story on Daily Trust, it's on the return of Santai. Now, row over Santai's return bid in Taraba. That's the lead story, and it's accompanied, of course, Daily News Watch. Daily News Watch, it's leading with that story. I beg your pardon, Daily News Watch. Sorry about that confusion. Daily News Watch is leading with the story. Row over Santai's return bid in Taraba. What you have on the screen is Daily Trust, but what we're reading is Daily News Watch. If the camera can just get us Daily News Watch. You have a picture story there with the Governor Dambaba Santai with his wife on the arrival from the United Kingdom after receiving treatment for the injuries. Daily News Watch, row over Santai's return bid in Taraba. That's the lead story. But just taking you slightly above the masthead, Boko Haram, residents claim sighting crashed nav jet in Adamawa. Residents claim sighting crashed nav jet in Adamawa. It writes with fate of pilots unknown. There are other trending stories at the bottom of the paper. $1 billion external loan request tops agenda as Senate resumes. And death toll in synagogue churches collapse hits 41. And Nigeria constitutes 77% ECOWAS's GDP. That's just on the front page of Daily News to Watch. And for me, the paper I'll take before Mr. Toyebe, Daily Trust now, it's also leading with Santai to return to hospital after Goba primaries. His return state managed by a cabal, that's the acting governor's aide. And there are other trending stories. Fighter jet goes missing in Northeast DHQ. It's there. And then trending at the foot, Lagos church tragedy, death toll rises to 40. And controversy over sale of Enterprise Bank. Details on business page 25. Mr. Toyebe.
Thank you very much. Well, let's take it from the human interest angle. On Friday, a building collapsed at the Synagogue Church of All Nations. And the story is very conflicting. Some say it's a 5-story building, others say it's a 6-story building. But what is not in dispute is the fact that it is a 2-story building for which initiatives were being made to increase the story from 2 to either 5 or 6. The overseer of the church had claimed that they saw an aircraft hovering around the place around 11:20, 11:43, 11:45, and 11:54, and soon after the building collapsed. However, the agency of the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency said they had a special training aircraft hovering around Egbeda, which is not just Ikotun alone, but the whole of Egbeda area, and it was not of specific, isolated to that area, and it has nothing to do with probably the collapsed building. But as at this morning, the death toll had reached 45, and those rescued were 100. Yes, 139 have been rescued. The governor was there yesterday, and he was shocked to find out that there were still people there, and therefore he said it should be declared an emergency site and people should be cleared so that the professionals can do their work. All facts about that will come later on. Of also concern is also the Nigerian Air Force aircraft that was reported missing by the defense headquarters. Villagers at Lala in Gombe local government area have reported sighting a wreckage. Also, this has also been corroborated by villagers from Hawul village, also in Borno. You know, Borno and Adamawa are border states, and it is within those mountainous areas. However, there is no information whether the pilot was able to bail out. You will recall that also around July 25th, there was a report of a training helicopter aircraft that we lost. On Ebola, the only news so far now is that Lagos has said categorically that there is no carrier of AVD in Lagos. And it's hopeful that the person that is being under watch is expected to be cleared on the 18th of this month. By this point in time, there will be no patient with Ebola in Lagos. And therefore, Lagos State government, after the reluctance of last week, has now come to terms with the declared intention that schools should resume by September 22nd. However, emphasis is being placed on the fact that facilities must be put in place, teachers must be trained to make sure that when the children come to school, they are not exposed to any danger. The story also that is caught attention is the return of the governor of Taraba State. He was brought in, he came in because they went on the last trip, last June, for medical check. He arrived at the airport, and in a brief remark at the airport, he said he was happy to return from Abuja, and apparently that seemed to have been in context. But it is generating controversy within the state. Those loyal to the acting governor are saying that his return is initiated by a cabal, and last week it called for setting up of a medical board to certify his state of health. But I think this gentleman unfortunately has a health challenge, and they should stop politicizing the man's health. They should allow the man recuperate properly and let the politics take its course.
We just quickly, before you continue, Mr. Toby, we'll quickly take the last set of papers so that we'll just round off with you.
Well, Claire, I don't think we're going to return to it because I'm taking over the pilot and then the nation. The issue of the building collapse at the synagogue. There was an incident that said that when the emergency rescue workers arrived at the scene, they were being restrained from going in. And I'm sure Nigerians do not know that indeed it is an offense to obstruct workers who are on emergency rescue services. It is not as if, there was nothing to protect. There was a building had collapsed, and emergency services workers were rushing in there to perform their services. To restrain them is an offense. That's one. The second point is, Lagos is becoming notorious, or has become notorious, for several cases of building collapse, whether on the island or elsewhere. What is the role of the officials who are supposed to be supervising structures when they are being put up? It is not sufficient to say, well, we are demanding from you your building approval. Why don't you apply the big stick? That's one. So I'm sure we'll have time to come back to that later in the day. Mr. Bayi, let's take, for the benefit of our viewers now, the Nigerian pilot. The Nigerian pilot, of course, also on his front page, just below the nameplate, has the story that Bayo has already discussed. I'm back. Alien Governor Suntai declares. Details to be found on page 5. And insecurity, Ebola, PIB top agenda as National Assembly resumes tomorrow. Details on page 4. And of course, the lead story of the pilot is Boko Haram sponsor. That's the kicker. Wale Soyinka under attack. Of course, there are riders there that, one of the riders says you should know CBN rules. That's according to ASU. And as Jonathan hints of Special Forces Brigade. Details of that story to be found on page 4 of Nigerian Pilot. And also at the foot of the paper, at the front page, there are the following promotional stories. The first says Niger Delta won't give up on increased derivation. That's according to Governor Duanga. Details on page 6. Also on page 6, FRC verifies federal government's multi-billion naira projects nationwide. FRC stands for Fiscal Responsibility Commission. And page 7, promoted on the front page, Niger records 10 billion naira shortfall from federation accounts. And on page 45, promoted on the front page, Nigeria's capital inflow hits $5.8 billion. And on page 12, 2015, that's the kicker, Jonathan may not face strong opposition. That's according to Olisa Agbakoba. I also have The Nation, but as I said, the stories are virtually similar to the ones that we had read previously.
Indeed.
Yes.
I have just Weekly Trust and Daily Sun, but I just read out the lead stories on the two papers. APC ticket, that's on the Daily Sun. Buhari Atiku set for war, and it writes with loyalists in fight to finish mood. That's a lead story. Other stories we have talked about as well. And Weekly Trust has how gang of hackers stole 6 billion naira from bank. That's the lead story. And coming there, army scores major victory against Boko Haram. Over 120 terrorists killed. That's coming from an eyewitness. These are some of the stories leading on this front page. But I'd just like to point out one of these cartoon messages, Mr. Toyebi, at the back page of Leadership. Now, leadership, that's the cartoon there on Ghana Must Go. It's very interesting. But of course, you are free to make your own interpretations, which is strictly your view. Nigerian economy resisting Ebola, finance minister says. That's on the back page of the leadership. Leadership back page has that cartoon. Very, very, it's telling us a story there. Nigerian economy resisting Ebola. That's coming from the finance minister. And there you have the response there, because you have vaccinated the economy. Well, all right, that's the cartoon.
Well, maybe there is financial vaccination for Ebola. That is interesting.
Right,
let me return to
quickly.
Yes, let me quickly return to the issue Kingsley raised. The issue of collapse building has become very notorious, not only in Lagos, across the country, and I think something drastic will have to be done about it. But the important thing is that was why the governor of Lagos State was angry yesterday. When we got there, it was as if nothing has happened. Church service was still going on, and he ordered that they should clear everybody out of the place and declare that place an emergency area so that the professionals can do their proper work. Soon after, he went into a meeting with the overseer of the place. I think they are trying to take care of that, and at the end of today, it is expected that the state of the building, whether it is approved, whether it is authorized or not, will have been clear. The other one is the concern about the insurgents. Internally displaced persons are revealing their harrowing experiences with their encounter with the Boko Haram. But most encouraging is that the armed forces are inching in on them where they seem to have stronghold around Goza.
All right, Mr. Bayo Atoyebe, thank you very much for coming, and have a great day. Mr. Bayo Atoyebe is the former Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Press Council. He's been a very, very dependable reviewer. Thank you very much, Mr. Bayo Atoyebe. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about the issue we raised much earlier on, mobile money banking.
Running on the network service of the NTA from the stable of the NTA Educational Television, this quarter, a wide variety of educational programs. Fun Bus, Tuesdays 5:30 p.m. It is fun-filled and educative for children ages 5 to 11. Walk It Out, Saturdays 9 a.m. Walk It Out is a mathematics quiz program for students of junior secondary schools. Take a Step, Tuesdays 6 p.m. with a repeat broadcast on Sunday at 10 a.m. Take a Step is a general purpose quiz program for students in senior secondary schools. Young Inventors, join the Young Inventors every Mondays at 5:30 p.m. Young Inventors encourages and celebrates creativity, ingenuity, and originality among children and young adults. It's a bouquet of active participation, learning, and being educated in an interesting way.
It's your mouth that gives you your best smile. That's why your mouth deserves Oral-B Pro Health All-Round Protection. It protects you against bacteria, plaque, and gum problems that could lead to tooth loss. Oral-B Pro Health All-Round Protection.
Nigeria, we the people decree that the power of evil secrecy shall fail.
All Nigerians should understand that a divided Nigeria can only mean catastrophic consequences for the entire black race.
We all African countries count on you, and you are our beacon of hope.
That when Nigeria sneezes, all of us will catch cold.
All of us who look to Nigeria for lessons and inspiration never cease to thank God for this wonderful gift to Africa.
Nigeria enjoys the respect, the admiration, the friendship, and the hope of an entire continent.
The powerhouse of Africa.
Nigeria.
Unite and build Nigeria.
God bless Nigeria.
A message from protectors of Nigerian posterity.
All right, thank you for joining us. If you've just tuned in, you are on to the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA, and you're watching GMN. Now, let's talk mobile money banking. As we said much earlier on, this is a system that is capable of transforming the cashless policy and also aid both the telecommunication and banking industry, as well as, of course, a help in the economic development of our great nation. Now, there have been questions, and one of them is how many Nigerians are aware of these mobile money services and are utilizing the opportunity. And in addition to this is the figures that we talked about earlier this morning, that the nation banking sector has lost billions of naira through internet fraud. Well, here is the background with Anne Jibuno.
Mobile money service is a service designed to give access to financial services for Nigerians in low banking coverage areas through the use of mobile phones and create job opportunities for many Nigerians. Observers add that apart from technology and agent network challenges, general perception and education of the payment platform remain areas needing improvement. Analysts say 6 out of 10 Nigerians are unaware of mobile money, and only 13% of those who are aware of it have adopted it. Some have attributed the low patronage of this service to the issue of fraud. For example, recently there was a story in the media on an employee of a bank who conspired with a gang to hack into the bank's computers and made away with over 6 billion naira of depositors' funds. Stories like this have discouraged the use of mobile money, though the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and the National Assembly are developing strategies to check the problem. Nigeria's regulatory framework allows 3 models of mobile money, which the CBN described as bank-led model, operator-led model, and the non-bank-led model. Observers say the Nigerian model excludes telecom operators from providing mobile payment services, limiting them to just being channels. They also say in countries where mobile money services thrive, mobile operators are used because of their existing networks. Experts, however, express worry over the slow adoption of the process. They attribute the slow pace to lack of finance, basic infrastructure, awareness, few agents, and the exclusion of mobile operators from leading the implementation of the service. Analysts, however, recommend more time to nurture the use of mobile money into the lifestyles of Nigerians. They say at least 250,000 agents are needed to make the service popular in Nigeria, and also suggest that government should introduce basic forms of mobile money education into schools. Observers say mobile money brings promising opportunities for financial inclusion of the over 100 million unbanked Nigerians. They add that the inclusion will also expand the financial service market, but emphasize the need for investment in service delivery and the winning process. Experts say the success of mobile money in Nigeria will boost the current cashless policy in the country and call on government, the private sector and non-governmental organizations to embrace mobile money as a means of salary payments for their staff.
Okay, joining us now is Mr. Musa Jimoh. Mr. Musa Jimoh is the Deputy Director, Banking and Payments System of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Mr. Jimoh, I would like to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning.
Okay, the 2 phrases, internet banking, mobile money, are sometimes used interchangeably.
Electronic banking.
You also hear of electronic banking. Just explain for the benefit of our viewers what these terms mean and whether they mean the same thing. Electronic banking, mobile money, internet banking, what are the variations?
Okay, thank you very much. These are terms that are used, like you said, interchangeably. And basically, they all point at the same direction, which is about having remote access to your money. That's why it is internet banking, it is e-money. Anytime you hear electronic, it means you have a remote access to your money. Internet banking is having internet access, being able to go through the internet using your PC, your phone, to your bank account. Whereas mobile money is being able to store your money on your phone and be able to use it to make payment thereafter. But at the end of the day, it's about having access to your money in the bank in a remote location.
No, sorry. Take again the aspect of internet banking and then mobile money. Apparently, with internet banking, you cannot utilize your funds, even if you have access to it. But mobile money, I don't know. Just explain it again.
Internet banking means going through the internet to connect to your bank to be able to utilize your fund in the bank. Some years back, it used to be called remote banking. When internet was not prevalent, people used to have their PC connected to their banks and they are able to go through their PC and get the information on their bank account. It's called PC banking. When internet became very prevalent, people now used to call it internet banking, because through the internet they are able to reach the bank account. Mobile money is quite different. Mobile money is a payment system. It's not an access. It's actually a payment system where you have your money digitized or dematerialized on your phone, i.e. you are able to use your phone to store values and use it later. Technically, the money is not on the phone, but you have to use that phone to access that money. So that's why it's called mobile money. Internet banking is quite different. It's about using your device, your PC, your laptop, your tablet, through the internet to contact your bank for your banking information.
So you cannot store money using the internet, but you can't store money on your phone?
Yes. Internet banking is just an access to your banking account. That's all.
Mobile money is ability to utilize
your money
for transactions
that is stored on your phone, technically speaking.
Okay, gives you more access. I mean, it expands what services that you can obtain.
Let me put it in a very layman way. Now, not everybody has access to the internet, but practically every Nigeria is carrying phone. In fact, according to the NCC statistic, over 120 million Nigerians have access to mobile phone. Now, which means that all these people are playing with their phones, they are able to call, receive text messages, exchange airtime and all that, which means that value is stored on that phone that they are playing with. And so what the central bank basically, have done is to leverage on that device that every Nigeria is carrying, much more than, people who have access to bank account, to provide financial services. So on your phone, you are able to digitize your money, and it's stored, in a system called a wallet. Not a bank account, it's a wallet that is maintained outside of the banking system. So at the end of the day, you have your phone, and you are able to use this phone with the number that you have, because number is tied to you, use this phone to access the phone that is stored virtually for you. Now, what this means to a layman is that with your phone, you can actually work to any of the mobile money operators that the central bank has licensed, to register, and then begin to save into that wallet, and also begin to withdraw from that wallet. And also, you can also use that money that is stored in there, to make payment. I can liken it to the airtime that people store on their phone. Even though the airtime is actually not on the phone, it's with the GSM operator, but you access that airtime via a phone. And people today can actually exchange, share, and transfer airtime. That is the same analogy for mobile money.
Okay. Okay, earlier on, I tried to, of course, from my layman's point of view, to make an laywoman's point of view, and I thought I could make it much more simpler for myself and, of course, the viewer. Okay. I said, if you have phones like this, mobile phone devices like this, then you are a step towards, of course, taking part in this system and becoming a mobile money, customer. Okay. That is one step. Okay. So with phones like this, but I understand that it takes much more. It's much more complex. Okay. There are applications that, of course, phones like this need to have before you can. I don't know. Maybe you need to explain.
I will do that. It's actually it's just because of the question that you asked. You asked the question basically in the middle.
Let's talk about mobile money banking, because that's our focus. Okay. Since you have made
Let me just give a background. Okay. The question you actually asked in the middle of the question. Let me start from the background and the reason for mobile money in Nigeria. In 2010, the central bank, on behalf of Nigerians, made a declaration in Mexico that it is going to try as much as possible to reduce the number of Nigerians that are not banked from 46.3% then in 2010 to 20% in the year 2020. This became the National Financial Inclusion Strategy. It's a financial inclusion strategy because the aim is basically to provide access to those who do not have financial access. Now, in pursuit of this, we conducted some diagnostics, some findings, to know what are the factors inhibiting the access to financial system by those that are not banked or the poor people. And we found that proximity, nearness to financial service touchpoint was a major deterrent. People are deterred from going to bank or putting their money in bank because they don't have bank branches close to them. So proximity was a challenge. And what the central bank basically did was to leverage on the mobile phone that Nigerians have. As of 2012, there was a study that was conducted, and it was found that only about 28 million Nigerians have bank accounts. However, you have well over 120 million Nigerians carrying phone. So what the central bank basically, did was to leverage on this network, on this, GSM network, to provide financial services. To say, since these people are carrying these devices, you can actually push financial services through that phone to them. They don't need to go to any bank branch. They don't need to go to an exotic building. They can actually, from their phone, begin to play around with their money, save, transfer, pay out, and pay in. That's basically the essence. Now, yes. Now, what we did was basically to issue out regulation guiding the issuance of mobile money, the issuance, of the electronic money. And what the central bank basically have done is license some entities in Nigeria who provide that service. These operators are called the mobile money operators. Now, coming back to your phone, we've actually worked with the mobile money operators in such a way that we ensure that you don't have to use a sophisticated phone to be able to play around with your money, to be able to use money. So the lowest denominator of a phone can actually, any of this can actually play with mobile money, because we are using a technology that all these phones support. Okay. You understand? Some are using SMS, some are using a technology called the USSD. And the telecommunication companies in Nigeria have actually supported this by providing this service, the USSD service, to ensure that every single phone that Nigerians are holding can actually participate in mobile money. So any phone you hold can actually enable you to do mobile money. Now, what some mobile money operators have actually done is to upgrade, the sophistication of the mobile money application by saying, for those Nigerians that are carrying, high-end phones, rather than use the USSD, you can also use internet access. You can use application downloaded on your phone, and you are able to play around with it. Just similar to what some banks are doing today. Banks are providing applications that you can download on your phone, and you are able to play around with your money in the bank. So regardless of the kind of phone you use, you will be able to use your phone to participate in mobile money services in Nigeria. So any of these phones can actually
So if I was using a 33, what do you call it?
No, don't
Well, you have said it. Any of the phones.
What we just say, whether high-end or low-end phones, you can have access.
Like what Kingsley has.
No.
This is a high-end phone.
Someone would download an application.
It's a high-end phone.
Let me hide it. So that, but again, just for purposes of conceptual clarification, apparently, for mobile money, you have little relationship with your bank. Assuming your major banker is Bank A or Bank XYZ, mobile money doesn't appear to go through your bank. You say there are mobile money licensed mobile money operators. Do they serve as your bankers in this case, or how? What is the relationship? What is the contract, as it were? Okay.
Yes, sorry, Mr. Jimo. Just before you take Kingsley's question, we'd just like to welcome our guests from the Lagos Network Studios. We're talking about Mr. Johnson Choko. Mr. Johnson Choko, Managing Director of Cowries Limited in Lagos. All right, we're sorry. We understand that on set right on your screen is Mr. Dr. Akiwumi Onofajulo. I hope I got that correct. I'm sorry. He is of the Faculty of Management Sciences, Lagos State University, LASU. Dr. Onofajulo, thank you very much for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria.
How are you? Good morning, Nigeria. How are you? Good morning, Nigeria. How are you? Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dr. Akiwumi. We now return to Mr. Musa Jimo here to take on Kingsley's question. Thank you.
Okay. Actually, as a mobile money subscriber, you don't have any direct interactivity with a bank, with any bank. You only conduct your businesses with the mobile money operators, because they serve as the provider of that financial service, the mobile financial service. The reason why the mobile money operators are coming in is to provide, that nearness and closeness and the familiarity, that people in rural communities actually want. Remember, the major thrust of mobile money is to bridge that gap of those that are bank and those that are not bank, to bring banking services and financial services to the other one. So you only do businesses with the mobile money operators. However, that money is quarantined in the bank. what we try to do is to make sure that that money is ring-fenced. It cannot, it's protected, from being taken away by the mobile money operator. So every time you take your money to a mobile money operator, the mobile money operator will only give you something that is called float, an e-value, the equivalent of that money as float on your phone. But the actual cash, the actual money is deposited in a bank. This is to ensure, to hedge against the issue of liquidity, the issue of the prudential requirements, that we need for banking. So that takes care of the risk of mobile money operator executive taking the money away. So in essence, every single mobile money subscriber will only directly operate with the mobile money operator and not with the bank. You don't know any bank.
Okay, let's quickly return to Dr. Akinwumi Onofalujo in Lagos. Dr. Onofalujo, this is a system that many people believe is, like Kingsley said earlier on, it's the new frontier in financial transaction. Do you agree?
I agree very well. There are new frontiers in financial transactions. And the Nigerians are gradually keying into it, though slowly, but yet it's being accepted and adopted gradually. So it's not something that we should worry too much about. It's going to be accepted gradually. Change is not easy. People need to be literate about it. People need to be aware and educated. And it's not going to be very fast as we expected, but gradually people will key into it, and eventually the benefits will begin to roll in.
Faluja, the expression on your face doesn't really convey, your optimism. So, do you have any reservations about this system?
I have no reservations, extensive reservations, because when you look at the theoretical approach to electronic money, which has been there in the 90s in the matured economies, you know that it reduces time and space, and it's what you can call real-time transactions. So the benefits will take some time for people to realize the benefits. Under utility theory, people look at what satisfaction do you get from a particular thing before you key into it. It's just rational. And maybe because of my theoretical background, that's why I'm a bit tied up. But I have full confidence that this kind of e-money will be bought into by most Nigerians as time evolves.
No questions for me.
All right, but I know you're in a hurry. You have other businesses you like to attend to this morning. But quickly talk to us about some of the hiccups that those that are trying to key into this system might encounter in the course of their transactions.
People have in Nigeria. We had a background and culture of some financial instability over the years. There was the threatened systemic risk in the banking system in the 90s, where some banks folded up, and deposit insurance corporations came into assistance. People are still aware of that. Of recent, in the 2008-2009 capital market banking crisis, you have people having low confidence in the financial system. Be that as it may, as literacy generally grows in Nigeria, you discover that you have no choice than to key into some of these services to improve your efficiency. The reservations that are being expressed is the factors that there could be possible leakages and possible fraud. I have a particular case of somebody who was trying to have internet banking facilities, and 24 hours before the PIN number was released to the person, all the money in the account was drawn out. So people are skeptical about possible fraud and ability to keep their details away from fraudsters. Identity management is being raised now. The National Identity Commission is raising identity management through their registration. These are basic infrastructural needs that the bank need in order to checkmate leakages in the system. So these are the basic problems. Problem of financial literacy, the background of culture of possible bank failures. People are suspicious and have low confidence in the system. But as education increases, literacy increases, you expect people to key into it, because the benefits are just multidimensional. The benefits are there. So even though there are drawbacks, there are possible sources of leakages and possible fraud, which you can't take away from any system. You can't eliminate the risk of fraud perfectly from any system. Even the mature economies battle with fraud every day. But naturally, because of the low level of income distribution in Nigeria, people tend to overprotect the little income they have. So they are very wary. They are slow because they have a low income, and they need to protect that little income. And that is why some of them are a bit skeptical, embracing quite easily the new e-money system.
All right, Dr. Akinwumi Onofalujo, thank you, of the Faculty of Management Sciences, Lagos University. We'll still just have one or two more questions for you, but we'll return back to our Abuja Network Center. Kingsley.
Yes, we have with us here Mr. Musa Jimo, is Deputy Director of Banking and Payment Systems, Deputy Director, Banking and Payments System, Department of the Central Bank of Nigeria. You were explaining earlier how mobile money works. And the next question I was going to ask you, and which I'm still going to ask, is as follows. Do the mobile money operators receive deposits from owners of mobile phones? And if they receive deposits, what is the minimum and what is the upper limit?
Okay, yeah. Like I said, the first process basically is for you to be a subscriber, to go and register. So you walk into any of the licensed mobile money operators and subscribe. You basically subscribe by tendering your phone number, and yourself. It's as simple as that. The lowest, know your customer requirement is your phone and yourself. There is also another tier of know your customer requirement, which may require that you bring some verifiable credentials. So you have the KYC tiered into 3 major risk segments. Now let's take the lowest one, which is taking your phone, walk into a mobile money operator and say you want to subscribe. All they do is to capture those details and then they activate you. Now at that level, you can do a transaction, a maximum transaction of 3,000 naira cumulatively, a maximum transaction amount of 3,000 naira and cumulative of 30,000 naira a day. This is basically to hedge against the risk of I don't know who I'm dealing with, because the only thing that at that point in time the operator knows about you is just your telephone line. And the reason why we can work with the telephone line is because the NCC had actually put in place the mechanism for identifying every single active mobile or phone holder in this country. So that is enough. So at lowest level, 30,000. At the second level, where you provide some verified credentials, you can do up to 30,000 up to 10,000 transaction amount and 100,000 cumulative a day. And at the highest level, when you are fully banked, every single thing, all the full KYC have been done, on you can do up to 100,000 per transaction and 1 million a day. This is basically to hedge against the risk of money being taken out of the system.
So, how widespread is the location of the mobile money operators?
The major success factor for mobile money operation is the human factor, the agents. Without agents, mobile money will not succeed. And in every client where it has actually succeeded, it is the mobile money agents that are actually making it to happen. Because at the end of the day, people will want to do cash in, cash out. Cash in means I put in money into my phone, and cash out means I'm able to use that my phone to take my money out. And that's actually the lowest denominator of financial service that central bank has made mandatory for all the agents across the country to offer. Now, as we speak, we have over 7,000 agents, that have been recruited by by these mobile money operators. But that is not enough, because we actually want, last mile service where these agents are in the nooks and crannies in the rural communities where people don't necessarily have, access to financial services. And so our central bank has taken another step, which is engaging more stakeholders. For example, we're bringing in the telecommunication companies, to participate in driving agent network. We're also looking at bringing some other institutions like the NIPOST. NIPOST has vast, huge network of, agent outlets and postal service outlets. So a combination of these will basically provide a network of agents much more than the bank branches.
Okay, Mr. Jimo, we will return to you. Back to our Lagos Center, where we have Dr. Akinwumi Onofalujo. Dr. Onofalujo, you heard the Deputy Director, Banking and Payment Systems Department of the Central Bank of Nigeria talk about the need to have more agents. Of course, this will, ensure that a lot more people are included, in these transactions, in the financial transactions. We're talking about financial inclusion. But you raised the issue of financial fraud, which is a cause of concern for, those that will likely key into this system. What do you think that the CBN can do to protect the interest of customers?
Thank you, presenter. The CBN need to work hard on the sources of risk. They need to do risk identification within the system and to ensure that people have confidence in this system. It is about confidence that if there is any infraction, customers, depositors are not at the mercy of the banking institutions. The case I mentioned in question was a small amount of money. Imagine somebody on a salary of, let's say, 300,000 a month, who happened to, have the risk of his money being moved out illegally. Let's just say 0.5 million. Look at the cost of trying to trace the source of that leakage. The bank normally will ask you to do a letter of petition to the headquarters. The headquarters will tell you they are investigating 2-3 months. And if you do not have money for legal representation, you wait. For how long do you wait to get your money returned to the system? So the central bank must quickly establish an ombudsman for e-money, for this financial inclusiveness to be embraced. People must be able to have confidence that if accounts are hacked illegally through the banking system, the client is not left to nurse his wounds. This is the problem of the system. The cost of managing risk of this e-money is very high for the client, and that is why people are very slow in embracing it. And if people that are educated are quite skeptical about this system, now imagine the low literate individuals in the remote parts of Nigeria. They will be very averse to it. Human beings are naturally risk averse. And that risk aversion can only be reduced if you can show some certainty that the outcome of this transaction will come out well. This is the systemic risk that central bank must work on. It's open-ended, and the CBN has a lot of work to do due to the peculiarities of our system.
All right, Dr. Akinwumi Onofalujo, we'd like to thank you at this point for your time. You can quickly run off to attend to those pressing issues, of course, that has kept you worried all along the program. But do have a great day. Great day.
Thank you so much.
Abuja studio here. Kingsley is, of course, I know you have quite a number of questions for the CBN.
Very, very quickly, the mobile money is the equivalent, as it were, of the e-wallet that the Federal Ministry of Agri is using for the distribution of fertilizer. Is that correct? Is this synonymous, or is just...
Well, something similar to that, but not well used. E-wallet is the outcome of mobile money. Okay. The mobile money is a system. What you get out of that system is the e-wallet, which is the virtual account, that your money is digitized and put in. Instead of a bank account, for mobile money, it is called e-wallet. Now, what the Ministry of Agri basically is doing is leveraging on this network and system provided by the mobile money operators to also provide access and information identification to the agricultural system. It has nothing, the agricultural system has nothing to do with e-wallet, except that the farmers will make payments to that wallet and also be able to save the money on the e-wallet and then subsequently make payment when fertilizer is distributed and all that. But what one of the mobile money operators that I know is basically doing with agriculture, the Agri Ministry, is basically to leverage on that connectivity, that system that it has provided to enable its customers use mobile phone. So the mobile phone is now actually acting as an identification, because when you do a transaction, your number is tied to it, and all that information that you provided is tied to it. That's basically how they tie to identifying the farmers.
Let's look again at mobile money. I don't know, how do you utilize it at the point of transaction?
Okay.
I asked this question because you go into some shops and stores today, and there are point of sales terminals. Now, how do you use the mobile money? You use your mobile phone on that, or do you use your debit card or your credit card? How do you transact business with between your card and then your mobile phone?
Okay, we haven't gotten to that level of sophistication, but we're looking forward to a time where you can actually use your phone in form of your card, in which case you just use your phone to tap a POS terminal that has the NFC, near field communication technology, to make pay. It is called tap and go. We haven't got to that, but some of them are actually experimenting those facilities. Now, what we do today is that a merchant actually holds a phone. The merchant is also a subscriber. He has a phone. And the person coming to buy also have a phone. What I'm doing is transferring, my float, my money, my electronic money into the merchant's account. That's payment. Payment is basically about transfer, of money from one party to the other in exchange for goods and services. So what merchants are doing today is that merchants also have their own mobile money, account. So when you walk in there and you want to make payment with your mobile money, they provide that account to you, and then you transfer your money into there, and you get a confirmation. The merchant gets the confirmation, and then goods is released. But we're looking forward to a situation, because today, when you make a payment at a shop, and unless a receipt is issued, you don't have that confidence that payment has been concluded. So what we're looking forward today is, working with the mobile money operators to provide the technology where when you exchange float or when you transfer your money from your phone to the other person's phone, there is a POS terminal around there that automatically confirms that payment has been made, in which case a receipt will come out. That technology is being built, and there are people who are test driving it. So at the end of the day, people have the confidence that payment has been made. I mean, from the merchant perspective, because merchants want to see something that comes out. Even the person making payment will also want to see something that he can hold to say, yes, I have actually made a payment. In terms of requirement, Central Bank has made it mandatory as part of the operation that no single transaction shall ever happen unless there is online real-time connectivity, i.e. you can't do an offline transaction. Every time you use your phone to make a payment, you must get a confirmation that payment has been made, and then the other receiving party, the merchant, must also get a confirmation that money has been transferred. If that does not happen, that transaction should be aborted. So it's an online real-time kind of transaction to guarantee issues of, I have made payment, you haven't given me my good, or I have made payment, I haven't seen confirmation, and all that. Now, I listened to the professor, the doctor, who talked about putting confidence in the face of people, and that's why we're actually leveraging on the agents. The agents are individuals who live around the community, people that people living in the environment are already used to. For example, the chemist, the shop owner down there. Every day you walk to the chemist to buy drug. You go to the grocery store there to buy your bread, your tea. It's somebody that you're already used to, somebody that you know. So that trust is already there. You are dealing with somebody you know, not walking into a bank, that very reflective, glassy edifice called bank branch. You see people wearing tie, like me, and then they tell you that they are tellers. People naturally go back and say, how can this man sitting down here says that he's coming to service me? I'm going there and he'll be saying sir to me. That will not happen. But with agent, it's somebody you're already dealing with. So that provides the confidence of the people in rural community to deal with those agents. That's why we're leveraging on agents to provide this financial service. So the mobile money operators will actually sit at the center and connect all the agents to provide those services.
How does that secure your investment? How does that prevent, issues like the one we have on the front page of the paper, the hackers from stealing your money?
If it is technology, then it will fail, guaranteed. There is no 100%, technology-proof system. But what we try to do is to hedge against or minimize those risks. As much as people can actually take over other people's phone, we've had that, where I have my phone and somebody else is using my line to make a call, or calls are being diverted to somebody else's phone. These are some of the technology issues that may arise, where I'm the one holding my phone and probably somebody else is trying to make use of my phone to do that. But on mobile money, like I said, the money is not kept with the mobile money operators. They only give you float. They give you the Naira equivalent of what you have given them, and you put it there. And I also told you that, the transactions are so small, because the difference between mobile money operation and banking is that banks depends on the loans, the money, deposit and loans that they give out. Small number of relatively large transactions. That's how banks make their money. But the mobile money operators will make money from large and relatively small, transactions. So the larger, the more you use, the better for them. It's actually based on usage and all that. And these are small transactions that are not so huge enough to wipe away your money. Now, in terms of protecting it, like I said, you have to use your phone. It must be your phone. In addition to your phone, they're going to give you a secret code called PIN, which you also apply when you want to do this. And because your phone is always involved when you are doing a transaction, unlike card transaction or internet transaction, where you are not present. When you are doing internet transaction, nobody knows whether you are actually there or not. Somebody can actually use your card information to do transaction. But for mobile money, it has to be with your phone. And let me say so that when your phone is stolen, it doesn't mean that your money is stolen. Like I said, the money is not in the phone. It's a wallet somewhere that is being maintained, but you have to use this phone to access it. And as much as you have your phone is stolen, you can go to the mobile money operator and say your phone has been stolen, I'm changing the number, and you go through a kind of security process to activate that on another phone. You have a PIN. A PIN must be given to you. So in addition to the phone, you also have a PIN which you know. These two combinations will actually protect your phone, protect your money from being stolen through the phone.
Okay, Mr. Musa Jimo, Deputy Director, Banking and Payment System Department, Central Bank of Nigeria. Thank you. Like we said, there is much more to this system than meets the eye. For instance, we haven't really explored the challenges of interconnectivity, and that, of course, has to do with the NCC, that's the Communications Commission now. So there's also so much more, Kingsley, to talk about this whole new system.
That's correct. I mean, I'm sure we have other guests, with whom we'll be discussing other aspects. But happily, Mr. Jimo has given us some very useful background. I would like to thank you for being with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, Good Morning Nigeria German will continue.
Jig in the water will get school uniforms whiter, and it is the tough stain fighter that will get your whites much brighter. Just Jiggins! Pop Puree and lemon. Just Jiggins! Hey, you better go get it! Now available in lemon and pot puree fragrances, the newest and freshest way to jig it.
Have called our women because our pastoral land should be our pastoral. Those who are going to be farmers,
on the TV, can't you see us in the meeting? Wallahi, I see plenty of people. Wallahi, they share one times. I don't go share again. Wallahi,
Jack, how TV?
On the TV.
Wallahi, we must do our move. Everybody must attend our town rally in North Central, Northwest, and Northeastern Zone.
Yowa! I will feel cry go around the town. Wallahi, at once. If you are informed, whatever the inviting you a majalisa an jima saboda ana gayyata ku.
Oh yeah, turn Northern Nigerian rallies ya fara sosai fa. Not Central people, not West people, not people. The town rally they will not domot now. Saturday, September 13th, Saturday, September 28th, and Saturday, September 27th. Kawaii. President Goodluck Jonathan don't do us better. Wallahi, make we join other multitudes of Nigerians to thank him well and join for the demand. Turn Northern Nigerian rallies. Now we go begin rally the main rally. Well past other rallies.
Continue your good work, Nigerians support you.
This message is brought to you courtesy Transformation Ambassadors of Nigeria. Turn for one vision, Nigeria.
Mama's cooking. Let's help her. Wait. My mama says before touching food, you should wash your hands with soap. But my hands are clean. I can't see germs, but they're everywhere.
Look under special blue light. To protect against germs, I recommend regularly use soap. Safeguard removes millions of germs, and additionally, it inhibits regrowth of germs that might cause skin rashes for hours.
That is why me, mommy, daddy, and my brother regularly use Safeguard.
Supported by the African Medical Association.
Okay, this is Good Morning Nigeria, coming to you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We are discussing mobile money and how to ratchet up its widespread acceptance and usage in the country. But of course, mobile money is an aspect of e-money. And we have joining us in the Abuja studio now, Mr. Abdul Hakim Ajijola. Mr. Ajijola, of course, is a cybersecurity expert. Mr. Ajijola, welcome. Thank you. To Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay. And also joining us from the Lagos studio is Mr. Johnson Chukwu, as the Managing Director of Cowries Limited. I'd like to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning.
Okay, perhaps we'll just kick off with our guests at the Lagos Network Center. We don't know whether you had the benefit of listening to the explanations by the CBN Deputy Director in charge of banking and payments system. Namely the differences between mobile money and internet banking and POS and so on and so forth. But the emphasis appears to be on financial inclusion for mobile money and getting people in the rural areas to have access, as it were. I have a few concerns about this, and I'm sure that some of our viewers will also have some of these concerns. You need some literacy level to be able to operate a PIN number, to have a PIN number, utilize it for payments and so on and so forth. The second point also has to be with the security. I mean, if your phone is missing, for instance, how immediately do you recover it? And thirdly, in the rural areas where the emphasis appears to be on, how many transactions can we possibly have, using mobile money?
Yes, I did listen to what Mr. Lao said in the program earlier. The basic factors are that if you look at the issue of access to banking facility, which you are talking of, financial inclusiveness, and we're looking at the rural areas which are the targets of mobile money. There are several challenges we have to contend with the rural areas. Beyond the issue of literacy level, you have to also contend with the issue of infrastructure. If you look at it, because mobile money rides on telecommunication technology, infrastructure. And if you go outside the major metropolis of this country, you find that the rural areas have very weak network services. If you go to the northern part of the country, look at the northeast, where the telephone service have been on and off, look at the northwest, the vast areas of the up-country Nigerian localities do not have efficient telecommunication service. Then you have to contend with the issue of lack of agent partners in those localities. If you go to rural areas, like where I come from, my village, there is no element of partner agent there. You don't even have a telecommunication kiosk. You only have people who sell airtime by the roadside, and they do not have the financial muscle to act as agent bank. I think the key thing that the central bank now need to do is to integrate the agent banking system where some non-financial institutions sign on with central bank as agent banks, and so that the mobile money can ride on the back of such agent banks, and you integrate the agent banks to what the mobile money system can also use as their own partner agents. For instance, the microfinance institutions, central bank should find a way of integrating them into the network of agent partners for the mobile money, because you need to have local agents, retail units where those who receive payments can cash out payments. And then you have to strengthen the communication infrastructure so that people in rural areas will have access. When they have their phone, networks in rural areas are very sporadic. They come in and on and off, and you can't rely on them for an efficient mobile money payment system. And then you have to look at the issue of fraud, which had been discussed extensively earlier in part of the program. But give and take, I think mobile money penetration in Nigeria has been very weak. Today, if you look at the analysis you guys did earlier, where you said about 13%, about 59% of Nigerians are aware of mobile money. And then of the 127 million mobile users are aware of mobile money. That's about 75 million Nigerians, mobile phone users that are aware of mobile money. If you take that 13% of that population are actual users of mobile money, that's only 9.7 million Nigerians use mobile money. Compare that to what you have in Kenya. As far back as 2012, Kenya had 17 million mobile money users in M-Pesa. And Kenyan population is down for the 4.35 million, which is about 1/4 of Nigerian population, or about 1/4 of Nigerian mobile users. The entire Kenyan population, about 1/4 of Nigerian mobile user population. But they have almost 17 million users on the M-Pesa. But Nigeria today has just 9.7 million users on the entire mobile money systems. So we have a lot of awareness to create. We need to pass information across. So that people need to know the benefit of mobile money. But we need to build the infrastructure that will support mobile money.
In Lagos, we'll get back to you to tell us what you think has made the M-Pesa of Kenya's monetary system more successful. But we return back to Abuja, where we have Abdul Hakim Ajijola, who is an ICT consultant. So many terminologies in the banking sector: banking system, mobile money, internet, point of sale, POS, so many. But the bottom line is that this is a system that has been, applauded, for its numerous benefits, to both government, the banking operators, and the customers. But the major concern for customers is that of security. How can my money, my investment, be protected? Now, stories arrive on pages of newspapers of how people are hacking into the banks and, making away with people's investment. So, for you, is this concern legitimate?
Yes, good morning, Nigeria. The concern is very legitimate, but if I may start a little further back, the first question we need to ask ourselves is, what is money? Money is a trusted, medium of intermediary value. So basically, for example, if I hold up this piece of paper, this is a 200 naira note. It's actually just paper. But because it is a trusted intermediary of value, therefore, it has become currency. In the past, we used currency such as cowries, we've used gold, and now people are used to cash. So there are these changes. We now get into basically the mobile money, the electronic money, which are your cards. And of course, the next step after this is going to be virtual money. So you can see that it's part of a continuum. Okay. Now, having said that, what enables me or you to have trust in this intermediary value? And security is part of it. Now, in the case of mobile money, there are basically 4 domains I would be concerned about. The individual, the human being. Now, for example, if today you are kidnapped, can somebody force you?
No, you say yourself.
Okay. God forbid, yes. But if an individual is kidnapped, can he or she be forced to transfer money, mobile money? That's one question. 2, the handset itself. What is my confidence in it? So, for example, if my handset is stolen, I think as the gentleman from CBN mentioned, what happens? Or how can I preempt, not necessarily the loss or theft of the handset, but the loss or theft of the value? Then also you have the communication between the handset and wherever the banking system is. And then also you now have the confidence in the banking system. And when we talk of numbers, I think my colleague in Lagos is very correct. For example, you talk about 126 million potential users. The question I ask myself is, how many users does an average bank have? I mean, I think a big bank would be 2 million users. All of a sudden, you have one mobile company that can bring to the table 40 million users. So this changes even the dynamics of banking. So there are a lot of issues. But one of the things I would want viewers to walk away with is that while we focus on solving the problem, let us use that problem to create opportunities. There is a need, for example, for encryption systems on the phones, in the link, at the back end. There is a need for new kinds of software and products. Can we, as a country, as a society, encourage the development of a cybersecurity sector, an industry that would now employ Nigerians to actually solve these problems, to give us confidence in this new medium of transaction? I think this is the direction Nigerians need to think about. Again, security is extremely important because that is the basis, of confidence. And again, confidence begets confidence. So I really applaud the CBN for starting small. I agree we do need to scale up quickly. But I think the issue is that let us start with something that can be managed so that people get confidence in this system. It will come naturally. That I believe. Again, I think we should also look at the issue, I think, and you mentioned it in the very early introduction, the issue of language, the issue of the customer's education. I think also this is another opportunity for us as a society. Can we encourage the development of language localized versions of all these banking interfaces so that you don't have to speak English or you don't have to be particularly versed in English or whatever is the lingua franca to be able to use the system, so that the equipment, the system, the mobile banking should actually adapt to people, not people adapting to the system per se.
Yes, it's. I would like us again to take a look at where we are coming from.
Yes.
Up until about 25 years ago, it would take you 3 hours or so, to withdraw, from your bank, and you had to go to, let's say about 30 years ago, you had to go to the specific branch where your account was domiciled. You didn't have, yes, you had to be on the queue. You were given a tally number, tally. There was this actor Ichioku, he's late now, who made quite some joke out of that in an advert. But we moved away from that. I mean, you can have an account in Berenikebi, and you can operate the account from Abuja, and so on and so forth. So this is a gradual process. And of course, you get all kinds of alerts. I mean, that's a very common expression amongst Nigerians. Have you received your alert, of any transaction going on in your bank? I'm wondering, considering the philosophy behind mobile money per se, wouldn't it have been advisable for us to perhaps achieve some measure of progress on these other systems of transaction, plastic money, for instance, POS, internet banking, before moving on to this way, as it were, a far more sophisticated thing of mobile money, for which we are targeting rural people for purposes of financial inclusion?
Yes and no. I think our colleague in Lagos just mentioned the case of M-Pesa in Kenya. Now, you see, sometimes you may find a solution that seems more sophisticated is actually more practical for our environment. And I believe that what has generally happened in Kenya is that the rural populace has actually moved, that is leapfrogged over some of these other solutions. So I don't necessarily agree that it is linear. In some cases, there might be groups of people, because the technology now exists, because hopefully the trust will be built. And one of the key pillars of this trust is what you call authentication. When you are engaged in a transaction with anybody or anything, you want to know that what you are dealing with is legitimate. Now, the gentleman, Mr. Jimo from the CBN, mentioned know your customer. It's a bit more than that. The issue of authentication is that if I'm transferring money to you, you also want to know that it is coming from whom it says it is coming from.
Now, CBN actually has quite a bit of work to do. And in fact, not just CBN, but actually the Mint. Because as I stated earlier, money is evolving. So the question for the new management of the Mint that I would put to them is, what is the next generation of money that they will be producing? And actually, if you look around the world, it is the authentication mechanism. If the CBN and the Mint do not control the means of authentication, then actually these means will be controlled outside Nigeria. And this also becomes, frankly, a very serious national security issue. So they need to be a little more proactive in making sure that the authentication mechanisms, they build on what NIMC is doing, they build on what NCC has done. It's not a lone situation, but it is, I think, the prerogative of the CBN to coordinate the authentication process.
Okay. Okay. We just take on Mr. Johnson Chukwu in Lagos. Mr. Chukwu, you must have heard Kingsley's question to Abdul Hakim Ajijola here in Abuja. Now, the major objectives of this mobile money banking system, from my perspective, is of course ease of transaction, convenience, including a lot more people, from the rural areas, poor people, if you would, into this whole system, and of course for security purposes. Now, would you also think that we could have taken it one at a time, rather than this whole leap, to this more sophisticated system? Would you have taken, for instance, mastered the POS and all the internet banking systems before, this stage?
No, I don't think so. The best thing is when you look at 22 years ago when Kingsley was referring to when you have to come to the bank with your mat and look at what you have now, the advancement in technology is so sporadic, it's so fast that you can no longer be an island to yourself. If we look at today, we have mobile phones. As at 22 years ago, there was no mobile phone. The mobile phones were very few. If you look at the level of internet penetration globally, there was none as far as 20, 30 years ago. So you can no longer say you want to take it one step at a time. The technological world has caught up with the entire global environment. We now live in a global society, and you must be in tune with what happens globally. You can't say, okay, let's take it one step at a time. And so let's start with ATMs, and then before you move to POS terminals, and then you talk of mobile banking, internet banking. The challenge we have is that we need to address those bottlenecks that have made it difficult for Nigerians to embrace the adoption of mobile money. Kingsley did ask a question while you were going off our first discussion, that what is it that made M-Pesa successful in Kenya, and that Nigerians can actually look at and see how we can adopt some of those strategies to quickly improve the level of penetration of mobile money in Nigeria. I think we can look at several factors. Some of them are situational, which you may not replicate. But the issues are, today, mobile money services are not provided by the telecoms, the major telecoms, because the policy that institutionalized mobile money in Nigeria does not allow the telcos to be mobile money service providers. But if you look at Kenya, M-Pesa is a subsidiary of Safaricom, and Safaricom has the widest network of telecom service provision in Kenya. So it was easy for them to piggyback on the strength of their network. And that also gave them access to agent partners or agents throughout Kenya. Then the other factors you have to look at is that the level of interface or the level of collaboration between M-Pesa and Equity Bank of Kenya, where Equity Bank of Kenya had to ride on the strength of M-Pesa to provide service to rural bank, to their rural customers. Another factor you have to look at, which I said some of them are situational, is that during the 2008 crisis in Kenya, during the riots, the crisis in Kenya in 2008, a lot of people were trapped within the rural areas and could not have access to financial services, and they were supported by their relations who were in urban cities through mobile money transfers, and that made it possible for those rural dwellers to quickly catch up with the technology and began to use it, and then became their standard means of receiving payment from their relations. So you have to look at the situational issue. The situation you cannot repeat, but there are issues of how do we expand the lack of inoperability of the several mobile money providers. If you look at one of the reasons why ATM payment as a means of payment is succeeding in Nigeria? Because the central bank compelled the banks to open up their systems and allow for each of them to have a handshake. Today, the mobile money providers do not have that handshake. There is complete lack of interoperability among them, and if you use one of them, you can't cash your withdrawals or you can't execute transactions with the other parties, and therefore you have a kind of fragmented network. We need to find a way of integrating them, so that automatically will expand the network of agent partners. Then you have to look at the issue I mentioned earlier, the issue of quality of telecommunication. Today, they're supposed to ride on the strength of the telcos. But the telcos, you have about 4 major telcos. Each of the telcos will provide a parallel service. We have to integrate those platforms so that the mobile monies that will have a seamless interaction with each other using the telcos. And then you have to look at the issue of appointing or selecting agent partners in the rural areas, which are the critical areas for provision of mobile money service. I did mention the issue of use of community banks, which are now called the NAM transformed. And then you have to look at those non-bank financial institutions that can act as agents. But somebody mentioned about the family chemist in the rural areas. I mean, in your program here, then you also have some of the major mom and pop shops within the rural areas. Each community have a kind of mini shop where people go and buy their groceries, and then such grocery shops can actually act as agent partners for mobile money transfers. But we need to look at expand the network of agent partners. We need to strengthen the telecommunications network. We need to allow for interoperability of the service providers. And those are critical issues. Kenya succeeded because Kenya has almost a dominant telco operator, Safaricom, which is the owner of M-Pesa.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Johnson Chukwu, Managing Director of Cowrace Limited, who's been speaking to us from the Lagos Network Center. I would like to thank you for your very illuminating views on this very important topic. Thank you for being with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Okay, we're back again to our studios here in Abuja, where we have Abdul Hakim Ajijola, who is sitting in and has been discussing the cybersecurity implications of e-money, in particular mobile money. We also like to thank you, unless you have the last word, just for a few seconds.
All challenges in life are an opportunity. And I think as a society, if I could encourage all of us to look at where are the opportunities to create new industries, to create new growth that will improve all of us. So I think the challenges that we see with mobile money are an opportunity to develop new solutions by our young people. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. On that note, from Mr. Abdul Hakim Ajijola, excuse me please, who is an ICT expert. This is Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a break. When we return, we'll go on to the foreign scene.
There is an Ebola virus epidemic in some West African countries. The Nigerian government wants you to be aware and watch out against the spread of Ebola in your community. Help keep our country safe. Refer anybody coming into Nigeria from any other West African country to a hospital for proper medical screening. And watch out for severe cases of fever, headaches, diarrhea, chest and abdominal pain, sore throat, cough, red eyes, and bleeding from the eyes, ears, and nose. Protect yourself. Wash your hands regularly with soap and sanitizer. Avoid contact with the blood, urine, feces, or saliva of animals like bats, monkeys, gorillas, chimpanzees, or infected persons. The Ebola virus is deadly. Don't catch it. Don't spread it. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information.
Just to put a cup of jig in the water will get school uniforms whiter, and it is the tough stain fighter that will get your whites much brighter. Just Jiggins! Pop Purian Lemon. Just Jiggins! Hey, you better go get it! Now available in lemon and pot pure fragrances, the newest and freshest way to jig it.
Still by your side, I will always be here at your side. I got you still.
40 years, Thermocool has always been there for you. And we always will be.
Fashion design, I get to travel the world a lot. In most of these places I go to, I roam my line, and to receive calls is absolutely free. Being able to relate to customers wherever I am, and it's still the same quality, it's amazing. One of the key parts to me is the weddings by my brand. It's very pleasing to be part of these people's life. So you can say there are a lot of similarities between myself and Etisalat. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Etisalat and I, we come from the same cloth.
Switch to quality today. Etisalat, now you're talking.
All right, let's talk foreign now. And Kingsley, I think it's your
Well, I take it, Claire.
Okay.
Well, now to the foreign scene, where there appears to be some ray of hope in the fight against Ebola in Sierra Leone, as medical volunteers join the crusade to combat the deadly virus. Here is Nnamdi Odipo with the details.
Hello and welcome. Intervention efforts are increasing against Ebola in Sierra Leone, with local medical students volunteering to assist overworked healthcare workers trying to battle the Ebola crisis.
I joined the medical side just because to save my people, and if I see my people dying like that, I need to come.
In Freetown, the country's capital, Commonwealth Hospital is the busiest as it deals with suspected Ebola cases daily. It has an isolation unit with international staff volunteering the time to treat Ebola cases. If patients turn out positive, they are sent to the eastern part of the country for treatment. And the new UN envoy to Syria, Staffan de Mistura, was in Cairo to meet Egyptian Foreign Minister Souman Shakri to reiterate his government's position on possible Western airstrikes to fight Islamic State militants on Syria territory. The Syrian government has insisted on being consulted before any strikes are launched against the Islamic State group on its territory as an immediate response to a U.S. strategy announced last Wednesday. Ali Efta, Syria's Minister of National Reconciliation Affairs, said action of any type without the approval of the Syrian government would amount to an act of aggression against Syria. Efta also said he believed that moderate Syrian rebels the United States is open to work with are non-existent, and suggested that training and arming rebels run counter to the spirit of anti-terrorism. He also warned against foreign intervention, saying fighting the Islamic State group can be used as an excuse by the West to gain political influence in Syria. Obama's plan to fight Islamic State group simultaneously in Iraq and Syria thrust the United States directly into the midst of two different wars, in which nearly every country in the region has a stake against the backdrop of Islam's 1,300-year-old rift between Sunnis and Shiites. In the meantime, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said he was extremely encouraged by pledges of military assistance against Islamic State fighters by countries inside and outside the Middle East, and that some nations had offered ground troops. Kerry had been touring the Middle East to try to secure backing for U.S. effort to build a coalition to fight the armed group which have grabbed territory in Syria and Iraq. Kerry reiterated President Barack Obama's statement that U.S. ground troops would not be used against the Islamic State group. And finally, in Croatia, as many as 2/3 of the country's counties are struggling with flooding. Heavy rain has been falling since last Wednesday, causing rivers to rise, closing roads and threatening houses and factories. No deaths or injuries have been reported so far. The biggest threat is in the flooded areas around the central towns of Sisak, Avkat, Kostanica and Klovac. Several villages have been evacuated and a state of emergency has been declared in the northern municipality of Neles. The Croatian army has sent hundreds of troops to help local residents build the protective dam along river banks. And that's it on the foreign scene. It's back to Kingsley and Claire.
All right, let's quickly take a look at what's happening in the sports scene, or rather on the sports scene. And here is Musbah Dan Wahab.
Hello, welcome. Let's talk sport now. Nigeria striker Obafemi Martins scored his 13th goal in his 23rd Major League Soccer game over the weekend to secure a 3-2 victory for Seattle Sounders over the visiting Real Salt Lake at the Century League field. Martins' 33rd minute strike made it 5 goals and 3 assists in his last 5 games, as the Red Green boosted their cheers for the Supporters' Shield race.
Forward to Martins, nice back heel. Dempsey in the advantage, Colin Martins, Romano off his line, the shot, 2-1 Seattle. Obafemi Martins scores.
And with the victory, Seattle Sounders have opened a 4-point gap atop Western Conference with 54 points from 27 games. And to tennis now, Switzerland reached the final of the Davis Cup after Roger Federer gave the host an unassailable 3-1 lead over Italy by beating Fabio Fognini 6-2, 6-3, 7-6 on Sunday. Federer was bitterly troubled by Fognini at Geneva's Palespo Arena and won in just under 2 hours.